Welcome to the SpiritWoke Podcast, podcasting from the beautiful city of Stillwater, the birthplace of Minnesota. Are you going through a spiritual awakening? Do you wish to learn more about continued spiritual growth and want to meet others who are on a similar journey? We hope that this podcast and its community can be a meaningful resource for you. The SpiritWoke Podcast welcomes special guests from around the globe who share personal stories of their awakening journey, along with details of spiritual abilities they've developed along the way. So buckle up and get ready for this exciting episode. And now, here's your host, Adam Dins.
Friends, welcome back to the SpiritWoke Podcast. Today, I am thrilled and so excited and beyond words to welcome to the show Audrey Van Wey. Audrey is a registered nurse, a psychic intuitive, and a medium. She's a Reiki master teacher, a vibrational sound practitioner, and a paranormal investigator. She is the founder of SITE, S-I-T-E, which stands for Spirit Investigations, Tracking, and Encounters, and she is also a member of the Sound Healers Association. Audrey also teaches classes on psychic development, energy, and Reiki with attunements, and she does medium galleries and home parties. You can learn more about Audrey at audreyvanwey.com, and so that is spelled AudreyVanwey.com. And today, Audrey has joined us to talk about sound healing and vibrational sound healing in particular. So we're going to talk a little bit about the science and spirituality of that particular healing modality. And we'll see what other topics kind of creep into this conversation. And when I say creep in, I mean it in the most loving of creepy ways. So Audrey, welcome to the SpiritWoke Podcast.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm so happy to be here today.
It is a pleasure to have you, and it's really been interesting. Audrey and I met. We met in Eau Claire, right? Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Yeah. So Audrey and I were at an event at a metaphysical wellness fair, and so we connected there. And I just couldn't wait to have Audrey on the podcast to share a little bit about what she does. So before we dive into all things sound vibration, I'd love to ask you, Audrey, a question. And this is something we ask all of our guests, because a lot of the folks who listen to the podcast are either new to the spiritual awakening process or are right in the thick of it. So would love for you, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing a little bit about your spiritual awakening. What sparked it?
Sure. Well, psychic abilities, I've had abilities my whole life, and most of them were explained away by my mother and my upbringing. But just freaky things have happened my whole life. So with the passing of my mother, I had a friend who was into chakras and auras and wanted to get together. And she's like, you should really check into this and look into this stuff. So we started practicing and I started learning. And lo and behold, the doors were opened, long story short. And from there, I started doing professional readings and, got my Reiki master and became ordained to do weddings, and it just continued from there. Life is a journey of learning along the way. So
were you, so when you say you started getting into auras and chakras, were you able to see people's auras beforehand, or did you kind of learn that as you got into your training?
I was able to see that, and I was also able to see spirit at a very young age. I always told my mother, well, I can see air moving. There's air moving over on the other side of the room. And she would look at me with kind of a frown on her face, questioning what I was saying. And obviously, as I got more into psychic development, I realized I was seeing spirit moving across the room. So I've always had those abilities. Getting into the chakras and auras was just how my friend brought me into metaphysics. And then from there, I got into the psychic development of all the clairs, the clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient, all of that, and really learned a whole lot about that. So the psychic ability was enhanced through meditation, and meditation, kind of brought me to my awakening that, oh my gosh, this is the real thing. And this is what I can do to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you said you saw spirit moving, was that, were those spirits that you saw, or was that, was that source?
That was spirit that was moving through the room. I've
Okay.
always been able to sense the change in vibration in the room. So, they say that male spirits vibrate at a lower level than females, and females lower level than children. So when spirit approaches me, when I'm doing mediumship, I can tell if it's male, woman, or child based on the vibrational frequency that I feel. So I'm very energy sensitive in that way.
Got it. So they would be different spirits. Like it wasn't the same spirit all the time. It would just depend on.
It could have been when I was a child. I didn't know if it was my grandmother there or if it was a grandfather there. I just saw the movement in the room. But as I got older, I was able to discern, the type of energy that was coming through.
Wow, that's awesome. Is anyone else in your family psychic or have any of these gifts?
Well, when I first put out my shingle, so to speak, I sent a message out to the Facebook community, and all of my cousins were on there. My siblings were on there. And I had so many of my cousins on my father's side of my family that came back and said, "Oh, me too. I have this." And somebody else would say, "Oh, well, I have that." And so it was really interesting that once I opened up and shared what I was doing, I was going to be doing professional readings when I first started, and that was back in 2009, that my family members stepped forward, so it was really fun at family reunions. After that, we'd get together and we'd talk about all things metaphysics. It's great.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've always, the topic of soul families and how, soul families travel together through lives, and soul families tend to be families that are sort of at certain, that I guess they're all connected because they're going through a very similar evolution of the soul, if you will. Do you feel like that's the case with people who have really refined this ability, or it's so strong for them, is that their soul, it's part of just their soul family? Or because I find that a lot of people who I've met who are psychics or mediums, a lot of people in their family are, and then when you talk to people who aren't, it's like, is anyone in your family psychic or medium? And like, no, they're not. And it's just interesting how that seems to be.
Yeah. Well, we kind of figure we're traveling, through multiple lifetimes here. If for those that believe in reincarnation, I do. So I feel that the soul family reincarnates together, and we continue our life, or soul, the expansion of our soul. The learning of our soul, evolving, I guess is a better word. So we evolve our soul every lifetime in the classroom called Earth. So I believe we go through together, but I also believe it's part of a life path, part of that journey that we take from birth to death. I'm the only one of my family that I'm aware of that is doing this professionally, hanging out the shingle and having clients. Most of the others that recognize it and use it that I'm aware of are doing it for their families and friends, and just kind of, helping in that way.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful gift, I'll tell you what. And thank you for your service, for being a light worker, and the world needs it for sure. I'll tell you that much.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. So it's interesting, especially when we first met, and kind of getting to know you a little bit, and that you were so interested in sound vibration, and it's such a big part of your life and your practice. I would always imagine that if I was a psychic or a medium and had those abilities, like that's what I would do, because to me that's like so mystical, it's so cool. So it's interesting to me that even with all of those gifts and abilities that that you're still so drawn to sound vibration. And I want to talk a little bit about this this healing modality. But could you explain a little bit about what sound vibration healing is, and is that different than sound healing?
Sound healing and sound vibration are pretty much the same thing. I think one pertains to music a little bit more than the other. Sound healing would be more listening to like relaxing music, like a combination of notes, where vibrational sound healing focuses more on the particular hertz frequency involved, or frequency that the practitioner chooses to help the client. as far as my involvement with it, I believe in having a whole buffet of things that I have available to help people. So I do still do readings and mediumship. And with the Reiki, the vibrational sound was just the next logical step. Because I am energy sensitive, I'm able to do, when I do Reiki, I'm able to discern whether there's something going on or not, whether there's a negative energy in a particular place, try to remove that for the client. And I find that this vibrational sound that I do actually amplifies the healing. And Reiki's like soap, if you want to look at it that way. It raises up the negative energy. So the vibration just amplifies that and helps raise up any negative energy and to bring the body back to homeostasis. That's the general explanation of vibrational sound therapy.
So how does it work? Like, how does sound vibration work?
Well, there's a couple ways that the body can absorb the vibration. It can go through the ears. Obviously, we hear the vibration. And then in the middle ear is where it's changed from air over to the fluid that's in the body. And then it continues through the body, cell to cell to cell. So the skin is also an organ. So that can absorb the vibration as well as the chakras, those energy centers that are midline in the body. And it can come in through the energy layers of the aura. All of that can absorb energy from the vibration. Once it reaches the physical body, our physical body is made up over 70% water. That's a statistical fact in all the medical books. So what happens, it's like a pebble in a pond. So once the vibration hits a cell, it transfers to the next cell, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one throughout the body. So if that particular vibration is effective for a cell, then the cell will use that vibration to help bring it back to optimal health. If it's not something that influences the cell, it just basically bypasses it. So vibration really is not harmful to people. So another way to explain the vibration, every cell or set of tissues vibrates at a different frequency. So when the frequency is passed along from cell to cell, you can think of it as, passing the food around your holiday table. Maybe somebody doesn't like the cranberries, so they pass it on and they don't take any. Well, that cranberries doesn't resonate with that particular cell or person in this instance. But here comes the potatoes, and I like potatoes, so they're going to take some potatoes. So that's the same thing with the different frequencies of vibration. So it either resonates with the cell to help it, or the cell is just going to continue to pass on the vibration and it won't affect the cell in any way. Now, the only exception to that is Hertz frequency 741. Now, that's the one that actually can help detox our body, both energetically and physically. So physically, what it does is it will actually, it's like a hammer on the outside of the cell, the pulsations from the vibration. When it's talking about bacteria or viruses, 741 frequency, when it pulsates, it's like a hammer on the outside of the cell. And eventually those proteins on the outside of the cell wall weaken and actually can tear apart, causing a hole. And what happens is the cytoplasm of the whole interior part of the cell can leak out. Once that happens, it's no longer able to reproduce. And all that leaking out just goes into interstitial fluid, which is the area between the other cells. So then the lymphatic system comes along, recycles the parts that it can use, and sends the rest of it along on the lymphatic system, and we eliminate what we don't need. So it's really scientifically sound. You can find videos on YouTube as well, talking about bacteria cells and cancer cells and all of that type of thing. They're working on it for cancer. And I'll go into that for just a moment here too, if that's okay.
Please.
Cancers all vibrate at different frequencies, and they're having a difficult time trying to pin down one frequency for all cancers, and it's not going to work because even our bodies, vibrate differently. The pancreas vibrates differently than the liver, than the heart, than the kidneys, all of it's different. So, lung cancer versus breast cancer versus ovarian cancer versus colon cancer, they all have different vibrational frequencies. They're all different. So to try and find the frequencies for those cancers is very difficult. And my hats go off to the researchers that are trying to discover what they can do to take care of these cancers. Now, if you go to YouTube, you can find different videos that actually show some of the researchers' work where the cells are actually tearing open, weakening, and everything is leaking out. And it's really fascinating to watch those videos. So I suggest to anybody that's listening, if you're interested, take a look at some of those videos. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool. And friends, if I didn't mention, Audrey is a nurse, so she knows her stuff. And thank you for that that explanation. So let me ask you this question, just going back to what you were saying.
Sure.
So different cells, you're saying, vibrate at different frequencies, right?
Yes.
So are these cells smart? So assuming with sound vibration, what happens is that the cells, because of a variety of different things, right? It could be, cell phone frequencies or stress or illness, but these cells sort of move out of their normal frequency. And okay, and so then with the vibrational sound that comes in and to bring it back to your word homeostasis. But you said if the sound, if the frequency doesn't jive, if you will, with the cell, then it just kind of goes on its way until it meets its perfect match. And so, where I'm getting to, are our cells that smart, that intelligent, that it sort of just recognizes what vibration is relevant to it, and then it just kind of matches that way?
Absolutely. Like attracts like.
Right.
Okay, so if there's a frequency that is coming into the body that matches another frequency within the body, they're like, as you put it, they are going to jive. Okay, they're going to attract each other. So as that frequency moves throughout the body, it's like I said with the potatoes going around the family holiday table.
Right.
Then they're going to, take a dose of that vibration and then pass on the vibration to the next cell. So, as the vibration goes throughout the body, it does eventually die down and stop. But as you put the vibration into the body with the vibrational instruments, then that, carries through for as long as you're putting in the vibration. So as long as the body will continue to move it back and forth. And yes, the cells are very smart.
So how quickly is the cell able to react to the vibration and sort of come back to homeostasis? And then I guess the second question is, like you were saying with cancer, or when the sound comes in and kind of cracks the cell open and leaks out, like how long does it take for sound to work?
That varies by individual.
Okay.
I've had people come into my office in severe pain, and after working on them, they are able to get up and walk out. Very, very shocking, surprising to me. Other people need a treatment or two, and some people need 5 or 6 treatments. It just depends on what's going on with them, where the pain is, or where the problem is, or what the problem is. And they have treatments accordingly. So it's depends on what's going on, and it depends on the person.
Does sound work like Reiki energy, where it doesn't matter where the sound enters from? The vibration travels to where it needs to go? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, the body actually does the work of moving the vibration through cell to cell, tissue to tissue, organ to organ, all the way through the body. So the thing that practitioners need to realize, and I'm certainly not tell anybody what to do, but what I suggest practitioners need to realize is that we need to do the vibration for a specific amount of time. Using the tuning fork like once or twice, or a singing bowl once or twice, or anything else for a short period of time isn't going to have or be as effective as something that's going to be sounding for a while.
Right. Right. So it's like a massage, right?
Exactly. It's that continual impulse.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have like a 5-minute massage, go for a 5-minute massage and leave and feel relaxed, right? You need
Right.
you need the full time for it to work. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So when you combine sound vibration with Reiki,
hmm
are those really long sessions, or how do you combine that into a workable time frame?
I do them together usually. I start out with Reiki and I do the body scan and all of that. Usually the shortest amount of time that I will have a session with the two of them is an hour. That's the shortest amount. So,
Yeah.
and I haven't gone any more than 2 hours with one person, just simply because it's difficult for them to process all the energy.
Yeah, I know that makes total sense. I want to get to the spiritual side of this, but I also want to ask, because we talked about like sicknesses, right? Like cancer and diseases that, the cells vibrate at different frequencies. And so sound vibration can really help bring those into alignment and potentially even help cure some of these illnesses. What about things like addiction, alcoholism, people who are addicted to drugs? Can sound healing help with those types of conditions as well?
I believe they can. I haven't worked on too many that have had the addictions part of it, but it's the same basic principle where you're also working on the neurotransmitters in the brain at the same time that you're working on the rest of the body. And addictions obviously are controlled by the brain as well as, part of the physical stuff. So I believe absolutely it can help with that.
Okay. Wow, I'm so fascinated by this conversation. This is probably the most questions I've asked in any podcast, even like going out like to the full hour. So I know I'm throwing a lot of questions at you, but this is just such a super fascinating topic to me.
No, that's fine.
So
I enjoy talking about it.
yeah, I can tell, and thank you. This is wonderful. I think our audience, our audience is going to love this episode for sure. So. We've talked a lot about the physical side of sound vibration. So, how have you seen sound vibration help heal, or not even heal, but how have you seen sound vibration work with people spiritually?
As far as spiritually, I've seen, getting back to like relaxation and things like that, they kind of go into a meditative state at times. Not everybody does, but some do. And they wake up feeling very refreshed. Now, in addition to that, one of the vibrational tools I have is a set of tuning forks that's tuned to the Solfeggio scale. So the Solfeggio scale is a very ancient set of frequencies, was used with Gregorian chants, if I pronounced that correctly. Sorry if I didn't. But, it's one of those things where they originally had like 6 different frequencies with the Gregorian chants. And with that, the higher the frequencies, the more enlightenment they're bringing in. So we have frequencies up into the 900s that we use with that particular scale of tuning forks. So it depends on what the person is looking for also, that if they want those higher frequencies, then that's something I will do for them. I'm also maintaining, monitoring their energy while I'm doing it, because as a Reiki master yourself, you don't want to overload your client with energy.
Right.
But, using the Solfeggio scale actually helps bring in that enlightenment and that energy that comes through. So.
Yeah, and is the 741 hertz tool in that Solfeggio range? Now I'm butchering the name of it.
Yes, it is. It's actually the way that they explain it. If you Google it or look it up or whatever, the way they explain it is, it releases toxins from the body. Well, I'm sorry, bacteria and viruses are toxins. So, and based on the other research that I've done, that's where I learned about the weakening of the cell wall and the cytoplasm coming out. And, and the more that you do it when you're sick, the faster you're going to heal.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I work with I was sharing with you earlier before we were on the podcast, but just sharing that with those who are listening in, that I work sometimes with tuning forks with Reiki. And I remember when I was looking for tuning forks, and maybe this will help some people who are thinking about going into sound vibrational healing. So when I bought my set of tuning forks, I got them in Sedona, which is cool to say, right? Like, hey, yeah, my tuning forks from Sedona. But they're chakra tuning forks. So essentially each of the tuning forks is attuned to the frequency of each of the chakras, you know, from root to crown. And I remember when I was looking at those, and then I had also, you know, seen the Solfeggio tuning forks, and I kept asking, like, what's the better set to get? Because, you know, like for me, my whole thing is I just wanted to be able to have my clients leave in a better place than when they came. And so I didn't want to just, you know, it's kind of like when you go buy a car and you don't really know what you're looking for, and the salesperson's just giving you all these different options, and you're like, just tell me what I need. So from your perspective, for those listening in, what do you, like, if you had to pick between a set of chakra tuning forks and then the Solfeggio tuning forks, what would be your go-to?
Well, actually, I'm the wrong person to ask because I have both. So I do use the chakra tuning forks if I feel somebody, you know, if their chakras are depressed or, you know, lower than they should be. They don't have as much energy as they should have. And I use the Solfeggio ones if I feel like they need an extra boost with something a little bit more specific other than the chakras. So I use them in conjunction with each other.
So would you use the Solfeggio forks more for like spiritual things? Like if you feel like there's just a need to be more connected to either the universe or to Mother Earth?
Yeah, definitely for that. And the root chakra is good for that too, as far as connection and grounding. But in the Solfeggio scale, you've got Hertz frequency 174, which is for pain. You've got 285, which, you know, helps for like repairing different things, repairing your energy, rejuvenating, you know, the mind and the energy levels and things like that. I could go through the whole entire list if you want me to, but
no, that's okay. I think that makes
there's so much with the Solfeggio scale. Like Hertz frequency 528 is for the heart. They say it's miracles and DNA repair, but it's also for the heart. And one thing we didn't talk about is how the frequencies of the body actually, or the chakras actually coincide with the notes of the musical scale. Like the root chakra is the C note, and then D would be the sacral chakra, which the root chakra is at the end of the spine. The sacral chakra is 2 inches below the navel or the belly button. So that one is a D. The next one is E, which is the solar plexus, 2 inches above the belly button. F is for the heart. G is for the throat, at the base of the throat. That's a throat chakra. And then you've got A for the third eye and B for the crown. So there's 7 major chakras, and there's the 7 major notes of the scale. So that's how the other, kind of getting off the chakras and the tuning forks here, but that's how the other vibrational instruments can come into play, because they play those specific notes and it enters the body throughout the skin and the ears, like we talked about, but also through the chakras with those particular notes. So the tuning forks are great, especially one-on-one with clients, but in a sound bath, it's nice to have the variety of instruments to play. So
yeah, for sure. And so when you use the tuning forks, do you use typically all of, when I say all of them, like if you're going to use, let's say your chakra set or your Solfeggio set, do you use all of the forks in a session, or do you just use the ones that you feel are necessary for whatever the client is there to see you for?
Yeah, I don't think there's enough time to actually use them all and do Reiki and everything that the client needs. So I'm very specific in what I grab for them. If I'm feeling something specific energetically, or if I'm being guided intuitively, I choose the forks that I think will be the best for that particular client.
You know, Audrey, I think you need a T-shirt or something that says "May the forks be with you." I think that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. If you design it, I'll buy it, Adam.
Okay, that sounds good. I think we've got a business adventure to get into. Yeah.
Oh.
So I know we've talked a lot about tuning forks, and I ask a lot about those because I love using tuning forks as well. But I know there are a lot of other instruments that are out there. So would you share a little bit about some of the instruments you use, and maybe maybe not why, but when you would use them as opposed to, say, a tuning fork?
I use the tuning forks and other instruments in conjunction with each other.
Okay.
So, I may use a tuning fork or two, and then I'll pull out a crystal singing bowl and, maybe work on a particular chakra. I have Tibetan bowls as well, though those are the 7 metal bowls. The crystal singing bowls, I have the frosted white ones. And people love those. They sound so beautiful. There's other things that I have in my office too. I have chimes that I use. I have crystal pyramids that I use with my clients. Those are just really good for balancing the energy and just taking away stuff. It's like a vacuum. It just sucks things right out of the aura. Those are just great. There's other things I use, not so much as far as one-to-one, but other things that I have available for like the sound baths and things that I do too. So, but yeah, I use everything in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've seen a lot more lately are and it's something I aspire to one day, but seeing a lot of people using gongs now.
I have 2 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're very grounding. They're great for breaking up negative energy. Use them in my sound bath more than one-on-one because they are so loud in my office. So my healing room is a little bit, little small.
Yeah. You definitely,
But,
I hear you.
yeah. The more instruments you get, the smaller it gets.
Yeah, I know. I have a smaller healing space too. And so I have to be careful, about which instruments I use, especially since I have neighbors. But yeah, it's fast. I had a beautiful set of crystal singing bowls as well. And, I use them. I can't say that I ever used them with people, but I love to play them when I had the time. And then I just found I just didn't have enough time for it all. And so I sold them, but I definitely missed them. They were a beautiful set I got from a sound engineer in Arizona that made his own. Yeah, he made his own crystal bowls. And so I sold them to an energy healer out here, and I see her on Facebook now all the time using them, and so it's so nice to see someone actually. Yeah, it's okay. They're in a good place, someone's using them. So let me ask you about drumming, because we're talking about sound vibration, and in my practice with Reiki, I use a shamanic drumming a lot of times with my clients, depending on what's going on. Is that a tool that you use in your practice?
Yes, I actually offer drum washes. If my clients want them, they can lay on the Reiki table and I'll drum wash. I have a buffalo drum and I have an elk drum. The elk drum I made. If anybody out there is interested in making drums, can I put a plug in for somebody?
Yes, please do.
Okay. His name is Wayne Manthe. He provides the frame for the drum, and he'll walk you through making a drum step by step in his classes. Awesome experience. I cried when I did it because of the sacredness of the process. When I made that elk drum, it was just absolutely beautiful. And to me, that's a very special drum because that's the one I made, So, but yes, I do drumming actually, one-on-one with my clients if they request it, and I do offer it. So it helps to, you wouldn't think drumming would actually relax people, but it actually does put them at ease, with that drumming sound, kind of mimics the heartbeat a little bit, and you can drum to the heartbeat, or you can drum really slow to ground them a little bit more. So it just depends on how you want to use that with the drum wash.
Yeah, I know a lot of shamans believe that the drum is the heartbeat of Mother Earth as well, and so it helps ground us to Earth in a powerful way.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask another question, since we're talking about drums. So I have, and I'm I'm assuming that people who are still listening to this podcast are really interested in sound, so I'm just going to keep asking.
Sure.
So the drum I use, it's a vegan drum, so it wasn't there were no animals used to make the instrument. But I definitely know that a lot of folks like you and shamans and whatnot use, animal hide for their drum. Is there, in your experience, a difference in the quality of sound between a vegan and an animal hide, or is there another spiritual layer to the animal hide because of the use of the animal? Like, what's your take on that?
I think there's a spiritual side to it if you're very interested in, like you were saying, the shamanic part of it or Native American part of it. When I made my drum, I was able to get the hide that was right over the heart of the animal as part of my elk drum. So that was very important to me to have that. And again, it was a very sacred experience. Now, I know there's a lot of animal lovers out there, and I'm one of them. So it was very difficult for me to go through and make that drum. But in my intention setting, when I made the drum, I set the intention of gratitude to that animal for allowing me to use its hide. So, I mean, that was part of the process for me. So, and I use that drum very, very sacredly. So there's other drums also that I have. I have something called an ocean drum, and that has, I forget the name of it, but it's not an animal skin. But it does have this almost plastic type of skin over the top of it. So I don't feel the sacredness of that. I like the sound of the ocean that it makes. And of course, you can use it for a hand drum as well. But I don't feel the sacredness with that as I do with the ones that are actual animal hide. So, and that's just me personally.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, you think back to the days, I guess I should say, before everything got so, I hate to use the word PC because I'm an animal person too, and that's why I bought my vegan drum. But back in the days where with the indigenous folks and shamans, they used animal. They didn't have vegan options, and so they used animal hides, but they respected the animal for sure. Similar to when they would eat the animal meat. It wasn't just it's not like we kind of mindlessly do things today, when we go to Applebee's or whatever, and we order a burger and you don't even think about what you're eating, right? Like you're eating I really do think there is something to be said about, the appreciation and the sacredness and the gift that the animal gives us to use to heal people through their sacrifice. And so for those listening in who because I do know that there's some different perspectives on that, but that's just how I see it. Like you said, I think you said it perfectly, Audrey, where you just show the respect and use it sacredly. A lot of people, when they meditate, use meditation apps, or they'll go to YouTube and they'll listen to different, tracks that are sound, have sound vibration or different sounds in them. In your experience, is like sitting down and listening to a high quality recording of singing bowls just as effective in the healing process as using live instrument?
I think it's still effective, but I don't think it's quite as effective. I think with the music coming through our electronic devices that we have, I think it does get distorted. So it's not quite the pure tone. So I have referred people to YouTube for certain hertz frequencies that they can listen to help them out. They're not as strong as getting the actual vibration face to face. That's my opinion on that.
is part of it because it's not just the sound, but it's also the vibration that's leaving the instrument and entering the body?
Yeah, I think the vibration is distorted from our electronic devices. But then we have to think back to, if I play a CD, the CD is somewhat distorted when it's coming out of my player. There's some players that play very well, CD players. There's other CD players that are, rather inexpensive, and maybe that they don't play quite as well. They don't have the quality that the more expensive ones do, although quality has improved over the last few years. But just trying to make my point that, electronics do distort the vibration a little bit. So I think it's still there. I think, if somebody goes to YouTube and listens to Hertz frequency 741 for the bacteria or 174 for pain or whatever they want to go to, I think it will help, but it's not going to be as effective as actually having a vibrational instrument in the room with them or a practitioner working on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, I have a controversial question to ask you.
Uh-oh.
It's not a controversial question. So someone comes to you and they have a certain ailment. Let's just say, well, maybe let me not say, because maybe this will help. Maybe you'll have some different answers depending on what I say here. But just imagine someone comes to you with an issue and you can only pick one modality to use, Reiki or sound vibration. What do you pick and why?
That's a thought-provoking question. And I do Reiki and vibrational sound together so often that it's really difficult for me to pick. The Reiki is, divine energy. And, that's very powerful. It helps to balance their energy. It helps to ground them. It's, I can't say enough about the modality. The vibrational sound is just something different. It's the vibration that comes in. It's the scientific part when it actually works on the physical body. And I kind of have a foot in each camp here because I am a registered nurse and because I am very involved with the metaphysical world in my community here, that I really can't choose between one or the other. I use them both together. The only time I wouldn't use them together is if a client says, I really don't want to listen to any of those instruments today. Or, I really, don't want Reiki today. Then I would follow the client's wishes. But if it's up to me, I use both because it's more effective to use both.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And that's a great answer to the question. And I'm not a medical professional by any means, and so a lot of times when I'm providing Reiki services or sound or whatever modality we're working with, for me it's definitely more on the spiritual side of things. I'm not as grounded in the body in terms of like you are, right? I think today's probably the first time I've used the word homeostasis in a sentence because you mentioned it first. But I love hearing, folks like you who have such a deep medical background, who have so much faith in these modalities. Because I think we don't hear that enough. A lot of times you'll see, find practitioners like me who are just really grounded in the spiritual side, or you get the massage therapists that, it's part of a deeper relaxation and healing. But I don't know. I just always, there's just something different about hearing things explained from a registered nurse's perspective, especially since you deal with so many different types of patients in your setting. And so as a nurse. And so it's always great to hear about that from folks like you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and have your listeners hear what I have to say. So thank you for that.
Of course. My pleasure. And, believe it or not, we're already at the 43-minute mark of our interview today. We've gone through a lot. We've said a lot. Audrey, is there anything going on that you'd like to plug? Is there any thing coming up that you would like to promote? This show will air in May. Just to give you some context to that. So, okay. What would you like to share with the folks here?
I do a vibrational sound bath for people that come into Solstice Wellness Center. It's the second Tuesday of every month. It starts at 6:30. It goes for an hour. It's only $10 per person. I always have people bring a yoga mat if they have one, and I go through all the instruments and try and provide a very relaxing, cleansing, energizing, and releasing session for everybody. People seem to enjoy that. And then afterwards, they can come up and play some of the instruments too. So if they've never played a singing bowl before, they can have that experience here. Same with the gongs or any of the other instruments that I have. I will be having a class in May, although at the moment it's in process and I don't know the exact day, but I'll be having a class about being empathic and how to handle that. And then I'll also be having a class either May or June pertaining to vibrational sound. So I'm actually going to be teaching a class as to how it works and how to use the instruments for the benefit, of the client. So I'm teaching other people to do what I do, because the more people that do it, the more people get helped.
That's wonderful. And I plan on being at that class. So I'm looking forward to, so definitely keep me posted on when that is happening. And for those, who are wondering where Solstice Wellness Center is, that is in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And so I know there are people who listen to this podcast from all over the globe. But if you are interested in any of what Audrey has shared today about what's going on in terms of workshops, the monthly sound bath, I am going to have links on Audrey's webpage. So when this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't know who else I'd be talking to, but go to SpiritWoke.com. So, and then search for Audrey. If you just search for the name Audrey, you'll find her page. And on that page, you'll find links to where you can register or get more information about the classes that she's got going on, including the sound bath as well. So we'll make sure all of those are live on the webpage. So definitely check those out. Audrey, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking your time tonight to chat with our audience. It's been incredibly educational and inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much. This was so fun. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to have you with us. So yeah, that's awesome. And okay. Well, all right, everyone. Until next time, be well, take care of each other, and namaste.
Thanks for listening to the SpiritWoke Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to check out our website, SpiritWoke.com, and connect with the SpiritWoke community on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search SpiritWoke. Join us next time for another edition of the SpiritWoke Podcast. Namaste.